Meeting number 2025-0227R.
Tonight's music selection made by Vice Mayor Raley was Head Up High by Fitz. The next commission meeting on March 13th, Commissioner Brody will make the music selection. We'd like to remind... Yeah. We'd like to remind everyone to please silence your mobile devices to help with sound quality. Please make sure to speak clearly and directly into your microphone and mute your microphone when you're not speaking. If anyone is having trouble hearing at any point during the meeting, please raise your hand and someone will bring you an audio assistance device. Thank you.
City Clerk Kavanaugh, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell.
Present.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Here.
Commissioner Brody.
Here.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Good evening.
Mayor Welch.
Here.
City Manager Rose.
Here.
City Attorney Piper.
Here.
I'd ask everyone now to please join me and rise in the Pledge of Allegiance.
This meeting is being conducted live with a physical quorum present. The material for today's meeting is available online at coconutcreek.net. Anyone wishing to appeal any decision made will need a record of the proceedings and for such purpose may need to ensure that a verbatim recording of the proceedings is made, including the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. The archive of this meeting may be requested from the city clerk or may be heard online at coconutcreek.net. If you haven't already, please silence your mobile devices. If you must take a phone call, please excuse yourself and step outside. Respect and proper decorum will be maintained throughout the meeting. Vocal outbursts, jeering, cheering, or applause can impair the rights of others and derail the decision-making process. Members of the Commission, city staff, and the public in attendance shall not make any political campaign statements, solicit for politically funded events, or discuss campaign-related issues for candidates at any public meetings.
First, we have a presentation, and it's a proclamation recognizing March 2025 as Procurement Month and March 12, 2025 as Procurement Professionals Day. And Commissioner Wasserman will read the proclamation into the record and present it to the Procurement Division staff, who is here tonight.
Before I read, should I do this? I'll do this first. Why not? I don't know if you guys know this, but the city has received the 2025 Award of Excellence in Public Procurement from the Florida Association of Public Procurement Officials. This award recognizing excellence in procurement practices in the areas of innovation, professionalism, e-procurement, productivity, and leadership attributes of the procurement function. Did I say that right? And leadership attributes of the procurement function. So sorry. We are one of the only 25 entities to receive this prestigious award. This is a great accomplishment. Congratulations to you all. And now I'll get to the proclamation. Whereas public procurement plays a significant role in serving internal departments and businesses with the highest level of professionalism, innovation, ethics, and transparency. And whereas the procurement division adds value to the city of Coconut Creek by performing functions such as procuring favorable contracts, conducting market research, developing strategic procurement strategies, and cultivating working relationships with stakeholders using technology, competition, and best practices. And whereas the objective of a first-class procurement division includes safeguarding public funds and instilling public confidence and trust. And whereas the Institute for Public Procurement has proclaimed the month of March as Procurement Month to further expand the awareness of the procurement professional's role to governmental officials, the general public, businesses, and corporate leaders. And whereas in keeping with the goal of NIGP, which was the Public Procurement Institute, to bring awareness to the significant role of procurement professionals, the city of Coconut Creek recognizes the second Wednesday in March as Procurement Professionals Day. Now therefore, be it resolved that the City Commission of the City of Coconut Creek, Florida hereby proclaims the month of March 2025 as Procurement Month and March 12, 2025 as Procurement Professionals Day in the City of Coconut Creek, and urges all community members to show their support and expand the awareness of the procurement professionals' role to government officials, the general public, businesses, and corporate leaders.
you got to get in the procurement package. Lens caps on. What do you think? Joking. Wonderful.
Before we go to the resident or input from the public, I'm going to take a point of privilege. Last night, I attended a meeting in South Creek, and there were incidents in a specific location that were mentioned. And I had told the residents that I would garner some facts today, and they would be presented. So tonight, our city manager, Sheila Rose, and our city attorney, Terrell Pyburn, will make a report on those facts. And so anyone that has signed up, if anyone has signed up for input from the public and it is addressing one of these items, you're welcome to have your 3 minutes of input. And then if you want to meet with the city manager or the city attorney, you're welcome to make an appointment with them next week. And I would like to ask the commission that we not have conversation. We'll save our comments till the end of the meeting. If I can ask you to do that, I would appreciate it. Okay, then I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Sheila Rose.
Okay, Mayor, with all due respect, I'd like to chime in on it, but if she wants to make it during her city manager remarks, I think that may be a little more appropriate, but...
I asked her to do that as a point of privilege for me. I had...
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll try to be very brief, but after our conversation this morning, we did do some research just to follow up to make sure the issues that were raised last night had been addressed or were continuing to be addressed. So I looked at both the emergency and non-emergency calls. Between May and 2 weeks ago, there have been 6 calls related to that property. Animal complaints, parking complaints related to parking complaints in the road. There was a suspicious incident reported, the injury call that actually involved you, and another parking complaint. One of the parking complaints ended up in a citation. 2 of them ended up in written warnings because the vehicles actually moved away. I also followed up on the code enforcement activities because I know there was communication related to the code enforcement activities. There was an inoperable vehicle. It is scheduled for reinspection. It needs to be gone from the property by March 3rd. There were 3 code cases that will move to a summons if they're not corrected relatively quickly. The fence decoloration, the swimming pool enclosure, and the stagnant swimming pool will all be scheduled to go before the special magistrate on March 10th. And if they're not in compliance, they will be at that hearing. There were other code violations specifically related to that property associated with loose dogs, sidewalk discoloration, lawn and landscaping non-maintenance, and again, the vehicle that was inoperable, the white Saturn. There is an ongoing investigation related to concerns of more people living in the home than appropriate. As you know, a family is defined as not more than 4 unrelated individuals. So code is investigating that. That is a more difficult case to prove, but they are researching that and following up on that case. When code does get a complaint related to too many people in a home, they do investigate the complaint, but it is a difficult one. They need to have multiple visits to the property. They follow up on any online information. Sometimes they follow up with the police department just to make sure we know, like vehicle registrations, just to confirm that it isn't a husband and wife or sibling groups. So that's underway. Oh, sorry. So that analysis is underway. just in case the audience is aware or needs to be aware, if you do have code complaints or concerns, the code officer for that area is Eric Jean Baptiste, and he can be emailed at the city or can be reached on our code line that is available 24/7. So there are messages available there. That's 954-956-1478. While I was at it, I did ask the code confirm whether there were any vacation rentals in the neighborhood, just because we understood there might be some concerns about that. We do have several vacation rentals or short-term rentals registered in the neighborhood, but thus far they are complying. So really going forward, the issues are being followed up both by police with some ongoing investigations. There was a narcotics arrest. They have ongoing investigations related to that, and the code compliance issues. So we are following up on all of those, and we can give you a follow-up report as those issues resolve.
So, City Attorney Pyburn?
I don't really have much to add, other than I do want to point out that the first address that that Ms. Rose was talking about was 4130 Northwest 9th Court. I understand that came up at last night's South Creek Civic Association meeting, and then she did go on to talk about some of the other code matters in the area. I know you had asked some specific questions about how to launch complaints. I do believe Ms. Rose addressed most of that, but if you have any specific questions, either she or I are happy to answer them.
I appreciate that, and I think we've already given notification. If anyone in the audience has something about that, they'll be able to do it after the fact with either one of you. All right, then we'll move on to input from the public.
So we have one individual that signed up this evening to speak under input from the public. Name is Philippa Scalar.
Ms. Sklar, just come to the podium and your name and address.
Philippa Sklar, 4401 Martinique, Coconut Creek. I expressed my concerns about the independence of the investigation into Vice Mayor Raley from the outset. One of my concerns was if there was any association between Mark Bogan and Tom Lynch. I was assured there was none. Last week I wrote to Ms. Pyburn that this was not the case. Tom Lynch wrote in his response to the Sun Sentinel questionnaire that Mark Bogan endorsed him when he stood for public defender. That's a problem. Vice Mayor Raley wrote in her response to the Sun Sentinel questionnaire, and I quote, "It should be made very clear that I specifically asked for the investigation, not the city, and not my fellow commissioners. They agreed very reluctantly." When I asked Ms. Pyburn to confirm if this was correct, she wrote, "The reason for the investigation was because I requested it." The irony is that the investigation is to investigate Vice Mayor Raley's dishonesty, and right off the bat, she is caught being dishonest. It is my understanding that the sequence of events for these investigations from other cities is that the commissioners were each asked if they agreed to a consensus to an investigation, and then Vice Mayor Raley was given the option to request an investigation, or it was going ahead regardless. Is this correct? Please email me a response to this question if you can't answer it here. I've asked more than once if I will be interviewed by Tom Lynch. I was told only city staff were interviewed. How can this investigation be impartial if I'm included from the interview process? Since Ms. Pyburn confirmed that the reason for the investigation was because I requested it, how can I not be interviewed? I am the one with the information and the evidence. How can this be ignored? If the investigation continues under Tom Lynch, the investigation is nothing more than a sham and a waste of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money. The city has no choice but to act accordingly. Tom Lynch needs to step down and return any fees collected if the city wants to remain impartial and show they are not part of the clique. The clique that the Sun Sentinel referred to in their description of the city commissioners in 2019. That clique seems to have been disbanded somewhat, but the clique's tentacles have grown in other areas. Please prove me wrong. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from their input? The input is closed.
Mayor, we do have one individual to speak on an item under the consent agenda, and I think now would be the time for them to do that.
All right, you want to go ahead?
Okay. Felicia Schuman-Newkirk asked to speak on item Resolution 2025-013, which is item number 5 on the agenda, on consent.
My name is Felicia Schuman-Newkirk. My address is 5520 Lyons Road, Coconut Creek, Florida. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I'm here to talk about item 2025-013. I appreciate the City of Coconut Creek for responding to my email dated February the 13th, 2025, regarding the adoption of the SHIP and LHAP program. I want to update you on my efforts to enhance affordable housing for our citizens and seniors through the adoption of these programs. Implementing these measures is vital for addressing our community's housing crisis and ensuring sustainable development. Adopting Section 2025-13 is a significant step towards the City of Coconut Creek and Broward County's 10-year affordable housing plan. Additionally, Broward County's 10-year affordable housing master plan was set out in March 2024, addressing the county's affordable housing challenges through various strategies. While the plan provides a countywide framework, it is also emphasizing the importance of municipals' participation, including that of the City of Coconut Creek. Key aspects of the plan relevant to Coconut Creek: municipal collaborations. The plan encouraged all 31 municipalities to participate in the affordable housing initiatives. Policy strategies. The plan outlined policy strategies aimed at increasing affordable housing production. These strategies include land use and zoning incentives, which municipalities like Coconut Creek can adopt to facilitate housing development. In conclusion, while the Broward County 10-year affordable housing master plan provides a comprehensive framework for addressing affordable housing need, it relies on active participation from municipalities like Coconut Creek by aligning local efforts with county-wide strategies. Coconut Creek can contribute significantly to alleviating the affordable housing crisis in the region. Together, by embracing these initiatives, we have the opportunity to not only meet the urgent housing need of our community, but also build a sustainable and thriving future for all who call Coconut Creek home. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have the consent agenda items 2 through 6. Agenda item 2 is a motion approving the minutes from previous City Commission meetings, 2025-0123R. Agenda item 3 is Resolution 2025-029. It's a resolution in support of House Bill 517 and Senate Bill 840, urging the Florida State Legislature to enact legislation to provide a public records exemption for municipal clerks and employees who perform municipal elections work or have any part in code enforcement functions of a city. Agenda item 4 is Resolution 2025-022. It's a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute the attached administrative services agreement with the International City Management Association Retirement Corporation doing business as Mission Square Retirement for Section 457 and 401 Plan numbers 30040, 109337, 109336, 109335, 107812, and 106098. Agenda item 5 is Resolution 2025-013, a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city manager or their designees to execute the attached interlocal agreement with Broward County for the preparation of implementation and administration of the city's State Housing Initiatives Partnership program for fiscal years 2025 to 2026, 2026 to 2027, and 2027 to 2028. Agenda item 6 is Resolution 2025-031, and it's a resolution authorizing the city manager or designee to execute a temporary use agreement for economic development with TT of Sample Incorporated and TT of Broward Incorporated to provide for temporary parking use of city property. Are there any items the commission wishes to pull?
Can you pull 6, please?
Any other items?
Move all items but 6.
All right.
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second from Vice Mayor Rydell and seconded by Vice Mayor Raley? We'll vote on the moved items.
Commissioner Rydell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. Agenda item, or is there a motion and a second on agenda item 6 to move it? We moved all of them but 6.
Do we want to talk about it first?
We need to have a motion and a second.
Okay, move it.
Second.
So it's moved by Commissioner Wasserman and seconded by Commissioner Rydell. And then we'll now,
Oh, thank you.
thank you.
No, I just wanted an update maybe for the public as to the first agreement and why we are extending it. Maybe just give a little insight, please, Sheila.
Certainly. Infinity and Lincoln are cohabitating the location there north of Sample Road, as the construction of their new building has been delayed due to no fault of the city. Their contractor has asked for a continuation until about the end of September. They are progressing much better than they were in the early part of the year, so our expectation is that they will be out of the property by then. So our mission is to help them get their facility completed, and then they will move those vehicles back onto the property. I would just say they have been fairly easy to work with. It's an important relationship. They do move out whenever we need access to the
That's what I
lot.
was just gonna. So for the Butterfly Festival, all their cars were moved out.
Yes. And for the fireworks, all their cars needed to be moved out. So we do, they don't have off-site storage, but they do come up with temporary arrangements when we need the lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Oh, Commissioner. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as a follow-up to that, I wasn't going to pull the item, but I think it's important for just history. Traditionally, the city has helped businesses that are redeveloping if city property could be helpful. We have a history of doing this with other properties, other businesses, of trying to be a good partner with our business community. Obviously, this is something I support, even more so because I think they moved out like 400 cars for a weekend. Yeah. So I say that because I think we have the ability, and this is at least a priority of mine, and I know it's all my colleagues, especially 'tis the season we're in, but helping our businesses the best we can when you have people upgrading their businesses, their business footprint, that are invested in the community. So this is something I wholeheartedly support, but I do want to say to some of my colleagues, just I think me and the mayor have seen other businesses utilize city property or promenade property in conjunction with upgrading their development. So this is something I fully support, and I think we always got to prioritize our business community because they are the lifeblood of a city.
I totally agree. And, the construction is delayed, which we know often happens on projects, even our own. So it's been a very good working relationship. So now, City Clerk, are there any more comments? City Clerk Kavanaugh.
I was just going to also say this, Mayor. I had spoke, normally whenever we're approving something like this, I do always ask for the applicant to be here. It was on consent this evening. I did speak as a disclosure to the applicant asking for this. I thought it was on consent. They usually always come. They're good business partners.
They were notified, and I expected them here.
I'm surprised that they're not.
Well, I may be to blame for that because I said it was on consent, so I didn't anticipate discussion, but I want to say that because I'm a big believer that you should always have your vendors here, but this is something that I think was more of an extension than a new contract.
Anything else? All right, City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. Regular agenda, item 7, Resolution 2025-030. It's a resolution authorizing the use of state law enforcement trust funds in the amount of $5,000 from the State Forfeiture Fund for a donation to the Police Explorer Post. Is there a motion and a second?
Second.
It was moved by Commissioner Brody and seconded by Commissioner Rydell. And we have our police chief.
Good evenings, Commissioners, Vice Mayors, Mayor, City Manager, City Manager, City Attorney, and City Clerk. Yeah, so the Police Explorer program, for those that don't know, this is our version of Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts type of program that helps educate the youth ages 14 to 19 on law enforcement activities, gives them an opportunity to ride with officers, see how officers act, learn about traffic stops, and participate in competition around the state. And this money would help fund that program.
And I think they may have a new recruit at the next meeting. One of your recruitment officers spent time with the mentee that I have at Take Stock in Children at Atlantic Tech, and I believe they won her over to come to the first meeting. So
Good. Excellent.
It's an excellent program and really develops the students into early adulthood.
It does. We've been doing it for many years.
Yeah. Commissioner Rossaman and then Commissioner Rydell.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, for this. Can you go into a little bit of detail as to what the 5,000 will cover specifically, or something along those lines?
Yeah, yes. So right now, currently there's approximately $50,000 in the account for this program. However, over the next couple of months, there'll be several competitions that will cost. I know the first one will be $12,500. So as we go along, it pays for their equipment, it pays for competitions, travel, and we have to have advisors that spend time with the kids and stay with them to chaperone.
Where do you get the rest of the money?
So historically, we've been donating from LETF funds, but usually $10,000. We've reduced that $5,000 because that fund's getting smaller. But if the account gets small enough, then what we'll do is start doing fundraisers, car washes, and programs like that.
Okay.
Whatever it takes to keep it going.
So right now, you have enough funds to cover the competitions and things with this 5,000 for the year, we'll say?
I anticipate we do.
Okay.
This is just to keep it at a certain level in case extra competitions or new equipment, equipment changes or additional training or additional costs come up.
And is there another time you might come to us this year for more funds from the fund?
Probably not.
Okay. Because I would say let's just do it all right now. That's what I was going to suggest, but.
Right.
All right. That's it for me.
Okay.
Commissioner Rydell.
Commissioner Wasserman, you read my mind. I know historically you always ask for 10. You're asking for 5. So my question is, was the North Creek event a better funded event than traditional? When I say that, I'm talking about the North Creek Explorer Run.
The police fire. So it was the most attended ever, but no, this is just to keep the fund high enough in case for unforeseen costs in the future.
I flagged this item only because it was a little less. I support, if you wanted 10, I'd support that. I say that because I think the most important question is this. I don't want to put you on the spot for how many, but Fred, you'd agree with me that a number of Coconut Creek police officers have actually been hired out of our Explorer program?
Absolutely.
I think there's 15-year officers that were a part of the Explorer program a couple decades ago.
Absolutely.
That's all I have. So I would support more if you asked for it, but I'll give you what you're asking for tonight.
Commissioner Brody.
So yeah, I was the same way. I kind of was a little shocked, a little low, but and I know the events they're going to and how they're placing. It's amazing. I think we're putting quality kids into it. We're getting quality adults out of it. And Commissioner Rydell, I don't know if you know this, but actually they fed into other police stations around our area. So it's just not feeding our local police departments, but it's feeding the global picture of police officers. So I think it's really great that we can do that, because I think the bigger picture is safety, not just in our city, but our surrounding cities. So yeah, if you need to come to the bank, we'll be certainly willing to help this out. So
Absolutely, thank you. No, we'll just ask for what we need for now.
Vice Mayor Raley.
I just want to make a point that it's also the private sector are hiring our explorers as security, and I think it's wonderful. I couldn't think of a better program for our youth, other than, as well as the cadets, our fire cadets, and they contribute to the community, and I think it's a wonderful cause. Thank you.
I agree.
Any other comments? All right, then we will, City Kavanaugh, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Rydell?
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman?
Yes.
Commissioner Brody?
yes.
Vice Mayor Raley?
Yes.
Mayor Welch?
Yes. Thank you, Chief. Next item is Agenda Item 8, Resolution 2025-032. It's a resolution authorizing and directing the city attorney to pursue the city's legal rights and remedies by filing a lawsuit in opposition to Andrew Cody and Michelle Patton, owners of Redstone Ranch LLC. Is there a motion and a second?
Motion. Second.
It was moved by Commissioner Brody and seconded by Commissioner Wasserman. And City Attorney Pyburn's going to make the report.
Good evening. On January 29th, 2025, the City of Coconut Creek posted the Redstone property at 4551 Northwest 39th Avenue as unsafe by the building and fire departments for having an educational use on the property after having performed construction work without permits. To date, Redstone has relocated the educational use and applied for building permits. Through this resolution, the city desires to give direction to the city attorney to engage the legal services of Matthew Mandel of Weiss Sirota to file for injunctive relief if Redstone resumes using the property for educational use.
Questions from the commission, starting with Commissioner Wasserman. Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, I think under the circumstances of the violations that we've seen, I think under, well, let me back up. I came from an industry that was very heavy on safety because it had the most death per capita per incident. So I think my feeling on this, when I start seeing all the stuff that happened, and we can go through how many animals, and we can talk about all the red tags, and we can talk about all the violations, we really need to put this on the forefront of safety and life safety, and we need to make sure that when we're doing this, it's not personal. This is the first time I've actually seen either one of you guys here. So I would say this is not personal. This is certainly about the life safety, and we start talking about children in that thing. And when animals are passing away and there's a flagrant disregard for safety for children, I got a real problem with that. So wholeheartedly, we need to move forward on this and make sure that we get into this in a way that satisfies the safety issue on these properties, because it's not just one property is my problem. It's multiple properties that they have purchased. And this goes over, I think, 4 properties. So I'm concerned that you just keep moving the problem from property to property, and it just keeps rehashing. So we need to put an end to this.
Commissioner Rydell.
I'm going to come at this from a different ilk. I'm not going to speak to the merits of anything. What I do believe as the non-city attorney on this dais is that I do believe that there's conflict resolution parameters that should be employed prior to litigating. I'm just going to ask our city attorney just a couple very brief questions, if I may, Madam Pyburn.
Yes.
Has there been any pre-suit mediations in regarding the current agenda item before us?
No, not to date.
And regarding the previous injunction, the property owner's attorney filed, that was withdrawn by the attorney, correct?
Correct.
So they could have moved forward with that, and they chose not to try to resolve.
Correct.
So based on those parameters, I would modify this, that prior to any lawsuit is filed, that a mediation occurs. I don't know if there's any support for that, but I guess I'm going to be, is anyone else queued in to speak, Mayor? So
Not
then,
at this time, and I haven't
then I'm going to be
spoken.
moving to amend the item to add a requirement for pre-suit mediation.
I'd like to ask the city attorney what that would mean in terms of length of time and how the situation of the children would be handled in the meantime.
Before I get to answering that, if I could, Mayor Welch, to Commissioner Rydell's point, I just want to clarify. As I believe you are aware, and there were items placed at your desk, there are currently 2 lawsuits pending involving the parties, involving Redstone or specifically the owners, Andy Cody and Michelle Patton, against the city of Coconut Creek. One is an appeal of some building permit citations from code enforcement and the special magistrate's rulings on those, and the other one is a complaint for declaratory relief. Again, I know you're all aware of that. The documents are also at your seat if you wanted to look at them. So my question for clarification is, when you're referencing kind of the pre-suit mediation, you're talking about before we initiate any proceedings, separate and apart from what's currently pending?
So to explain to my colleagues, the answer is yes. I'm aware there's a deck action. I'm aware that originally the parties, when originally cited, were not represented. I'm aware that they're now represented. I'm aware that their representative is, how I believe in dialogue, is open to an open, successful dialogue with the city. So before we start burning city tax dollars and hiring an outside law firm, before we end up in litigation, because the truth is when you hire outside counsel, we're paying for that, the taxpayers are paying for that. So all I'm suggesting is prior to a lawsuit on this item that you bring before us tonight, there's a mediation. That can happen easily, it could happen succinctly, it can happen quickly. I know, Mr. Kavanaugh, is there a lawyer signed in to speak?
Yes, there is, Commissioner.
Okay, so then I'll pose this to the air, and if their lawyer chooses to address this, then she can address it. Obviously, health, safety, welfare is a concern, but if there's a quick mediation, at least in a capacity to get all the parties together to try to come to a successful conclusion outside of the courtroom, we're saving the taxpayers of Coconut Creek money.
Ask you a question, Mr. Rydell?
Of course.
Isn't that what the magistrate's supposed to be doing? Isn't that their job to work through these issues before it gets to us to this point?
I actually candidly don't believe that. I believe a magistrate takes some sort of code issue and makes a definitive finding of if a code has been violated or not. It's not a mediation. A code violation is, and I don't want to speak directly to this because it could end up litigation, is, was this rule followed, yes or no? Our magistrate's going to say yes or no, and then fines then are thereby imposed. Mediation is our city attorney sitting in a room with their representative attorney and trying to come to a global conclusion about a lot of issues not necessarily encompassed in a lawsuit. Dispute resolution in law is one of the most successful things of keeping things out of the courtroom. And the truth is, if we file a lawsuit, we're going to be mandated by the Florida Supreme Court to mediate at some point. Madam City Attorney, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a mandated mediation provision that happens in lawsuits. We are just I'm trying to say, put the cart before the horse and say, let's mediate first to see if we can come to a successful conclusion.
So let me ask a follow-up question to that.
I don't know if you want to ask me or Terrell, but
Well,
I don't
lawyers,
want to pretend to be the city attorney today. I'm just a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to ask both of you for your opinion on this, because if we pass this tonight, can we put in the extra step of mitigation, and if it fails, immediately go into this? Can we state it that way?
I mean,
Yes, you could do that. And further to Mayor Welch's question, as far as would it require any additional time, just whatever time it requires to schedule the mediator and the parties to get together.
But may I also ask, has that not informally already been taking place between the city and Mr. Cody and Ms. Patton up to now? It wasn't defined as mediation, but several meetings have taken place in regard to the red tags, the flags, the permits, and the unsafe conditions. Have a number of those meetings taken place?
I will simply say that staff has had meetings with Mr. Cody and Ms. Patton and also with Ms. Cook. I've had several conversations with Ms. Cook. That being said, I want to make abundantly clear, We are not planning to file this lawsuit. We are very encouraged by the fact that the educational use is no longer on this property, and we're hoping that it stays off the property, and then there's no plan to do anything if that's.
Can I just ask, Madam Payburn, if you could just educate, and I say this for the purposes of what mediation is? I would rather not do it from my perspective. I'd rather you just explain what is a mediation.
Mediation is generally where you have, oftentimes it's a retired attorney or judge who is a neutral third party that meets with both parties and tries to help mediate or resolve the issues by essentially hearing both sides and coming to a resolution that both sides can agree to. Usually it's some form of a compromise that works for both parties.
So I only bring that up because a lot of times in my own personal experience, I was in mediation this week. I'm burning tens of thousands of dollars of client money to get to a point of a judge saying, okay, you guys got to go mediate now. That's taxpayer money. That's these people's money, where we can be in a place where before we get to that place, we say, let's try to have a pretty quick conversation with somebody saying, hey, I'm going to look at the pros, the cons, the this, that. I'm happy for a time frame to be on it, whatever you want, but I believe when we're talking about taxpayer money, we should give an opportunity to say, hey, can we all sit at a table with somebody independent? And Mayor, I think the difference to your point is I do believe there's a great dialogue, but I think when you have somebody sitting in the room that's totally neutral that says, hey, this person has a couple good ideas, good claims here, this person has a couple good claims here, I can't tell you if you're going to win or you're going to win, but at least we can come to a meeting of the minds to move forward successfly. I will make that motion post public comment.
That's what I was
Commissioner
kind of
Wasserman,
asking if you can go both ways on
Wait,
that.
I think Commissioner Wasserman's, sorry.
I'm just, I understand Commissioner Rydell's point, but at the same time, I do know this has been a saga, and I don't think our city attorney takes things lightly. And I think for her to ask for this authority to potentially do this, is that correct, Harold?
Yes, potentially.
We're not doing it today.
Right,
It's a
and we're
potential.
hoping we don't have to.
Right. I respect you enough to know you're not going to just move forward with something unless you personally feel that it's for the best interest of this city and what we're trying to do with code and protecting the children, the safety, and et cetera, and so forth. I'm for that. I do understand the commissioner's point. I think Vice Mayor Raley said, love to hear from the lawyer for them so that I can, for me personally, make a better decision for us.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Thank you. Yes. I'm not opposed to mediation, of course, but there are still safety issues, and code still has to be complied with. So there are issues that are not negotiable. But then again, I'm not opposed to mediation if we could come to a meeting of the minds. But again, first and foremost, it's the safety of everyone involved. So with that, I would like to hear from the residents' attorneys, please.
We do have 3 speakers signed up. City Clerk Kavanaugh.
Yes, the first speaker signed up to speak on this item is, and I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, Iola Cook. My apologies.
It's okay. You actually got it right, so I'm impressed, and I appreciate that.
Just your name and address, please.
Actually, I kind of have 2. So my name is Iola Cook. I am a business resident of Coconut Creek at 4201 Finkelmulder Road, but my personal address is 4901 Northwest 120th Avenue, Coral Springs, Florida. So I'm a little bit of both. I am here this evening representing my neighbors and my clients, Andrew Cody and Michelle Patton. And I hear what you're saying, and Commissioner Brody, you're absolutely correct. The children's safety is a big, important issue. So is the safety of the animals. And part of why we're here today is because code was not understanding the laws for agriculture, which caused delays in allowing us to build those new stalls, which ultimately caused some of those issues. But that's not why we're here today. So I wanted to give a couple of things and to talk about, it was the magistrate's job, as this is what they do. And yes, it is. It's the magistrate's position to look to see whether or not somebody's following the law or the code. Unfortunately, in this situation, and this is why I wanted to make sure you had our documents so you could read the arguments, is that they weren't following the laws as they're stated. And the appeal, as you'll see, is actually actually based off of the magistrate's ruling where he misapplied the agricultural laws regarding Florida building code
Ms.
and
Cook,
stalls
can
and
you
fences.
speak closer to the microphone? We're
sorry.
having difficulty hearing you.
But the second issue, which is why we're here today, and I will say that the city attorney and I have worked very well together, which is why a lot of these things are getting resolved, is that, again, there's a misunderstanding and a misinterpretation of the laws of the state of Florida, particularly when it comes to homeschool co-op, the definition of educational occupancy, what that means, how those uses are, because it's easy to come out and be passionate and coming around saying life safety and children and the safety of the children. What does that mean, and how do you follow the law? They're following the law. They're following the laws as they're drafted, but that doesn't mean that we're not here to continue to work with the city. In fact, what you'll hear is that they have building permits in for their stalls and for the demolition of an old feed room and for the fences, even though they're not required under Florida Building Code to have those, which is why we have the appeal, because we're hoping that these cases are going to create new law that will clarify this so people like the Codys, who are actually one of the largest agricultural landowners now in Coconut Creek, I mean, at a time that we're losing green space by the moment, to have code enforcement coming up and down our streets and sitting in front of our farms and taking pictures of our children, there's a problem with that. So while I certainly understand, and there's a point of fact with this too, this is more probably to Commissioner Rydell, who'll understand, but the declaratory action is exactly on the issue that you're looking to do, the motion for injunctive relief. We had already sought it. We sought it as an emergency because they were going to shut off the power to the wells that fed the animals. And the deputy attorney laughed at me. She's like, well, we gave you notice. Gave notice for what? To move cows and horses and chickens and goats off of property. So and I think my client was giving me her 3 minutes, but what we're asking today is, we have these cases going forward. I think the laws do need to be clarified because a homeschool co-op is very different than a private school. The regulations are very different. This was an existing building. This is not a new building. The codes that were cited under the red tag are for new buildings. You have all that information in your packets. While I certainly understand moving forward and protecting the interest of the children, at this point, it's not even an issue. These children are off the property. They're in another property.
Please go ahead and wrap it up. We do keep it to 3 minutes.
I've got my other clients 3 minutes for Michelle.
I apologize, but we only allow that in a quasi-judicial setting.
Okay. Did you have any questions, though, directly for me?
Commissioner Rydell.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Yola, I appreciate the legal commentary, right? And I'm not trying to be in a legal spat with you right now. This is a simple question. Are you amenable to mediating a lot of these global issues prior to further litigation with our city attorney? And if the answer is no, you make my argument moot. So it's a really simple question of saying, like, and this is, you're representing people today. We're voting on an item today. Do you believe, and be honest with me, do you believe if you mediate with my city attorney in a formal mediation setting where we have a retired judge or somebody overlooking at the law on a lot of these global issues, do you think that is potentially beneficial to all parties prior to us moving forward with a lawsuit?
Yes. I mean, the short answer is yes.
This is one of those
Mediation
moments that like
best.
stick with the first,
Yeah.
with the kind of the one word. And this is like the cross-examiner of me. And I say it because I understand you're being an advocate for your client. But if the answer is yes to that, then I think there's credence to what I say. Now, if you don't, and this is a total not meeting of the minds, then it's a moot point. But I'm trying to put forward conflict resolution. That's all I have.
Commissioner Brody.
Yeah, I'm going to straighten out some timeline. The timeline started last year when this was going on. You're making it sound like this is all relevantly new on new properties, but it's not. It's been over time that these things have happened. And I'm going to say something. I have a very recognizable vehicle. Do you know that? When I drive in that neighborhood, guess who I get stopped by? Every other neighbor. Concerned that their property is going to be burned down because of illegal buildings being put up over a weekend, over the animals that are dying. Okay? This is not coming in here lightheartedly. This is not just saying that it's a one-time thing. It's been going on for months, and the neighbors are concerned. There are mental health farms there, okay, that they're dealing with already, kids that are having issues. We can't have any more issues in that neighborhood. And to make it sound like this is just something that just happened is completely a wrong way to put this out. This timeline is over 8, 9, 10 months. Over and over being warned and told and fined and all the way to that power. To the power, if you cared about the animals, there was 5 other farms they could have moved them to, right? They own 5 properties. Heck, your horse was on their property, was it not? The 17-year-old girl that broke her ankle?
No, that wasn't anything to do with me. I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. But there was a 17-year-old that broke her ankle. There's animals that have died. There's a barn that burned down. Your neighbors are concerned. And they're stopping me to tell me. So I'm representing those people who are coming to me complaining. All right? And it's discerning that we're just ignoring that there was actual issues on these farmlands. So don't sit here and say that it's lightheartedly agricultural misunderstanding. It's not. It's deeper than that.
Well, I certainly understand. As a farm owner
So
with my own facility right down the street, I am a neighbor. I mean, I don't know about the ankle.
They're out there taking pictures because they're getting told on. The neighbors are ratting them out, saying there's things going on that shouldn't be going on. And code enforcement goes out there and takes those pictures and says, yeah, there's things they're not supposed to be doing. They've already been warned. So I'm okay with mitigation, but I'm going to tell you right now, the second punch to what we passed tonight is mitigation and lawsuit together, hand in hand. That if a mitigation fails, we go right into lawsuit. Because this has gone on too long for me to be comfortable with somebody's life being lost. And it just blows my mind that we have gotten to this place where we're kind of just blown off like an agricultural issue. It's not. It's a safety issue. And it's a safety issue for those farms and the entire neighborhood. Am I clear? Including you live in that neighborhood.
Can I at least respond to some of that? Oh, I'm sorry, was that a yes? I didn't know if you said I could or if you told me no. Okay, so just a few things to, in fact, what you said is exactly part of our issue, is that code enforcement sits at the end of the road and takes pictures and makes assumptions. The first person that...
Breaking violation.
But that's part of the problem, is that they're taking pictures, they're making determinations not based on the law. In fact, the city attorney was the first one during this entire process, when she and I were involved, who actually asked who these children were. They're the children of the people who own the property, their family members and their employees. Nobody had asked us before that. So those are a number of different things that we have been actually working through as we've gone through this, because we've had to take it beyond code enforcement, beyond the deputy attorney, beyond the city magistrate, and actually looked at the law and looked at what's going on and put it together. But nevertheless, they are bringing those properties up to building code. That's what I said. They have the permits in. The children are off the property. Even though we still believe that we would be successful in the cases that we brought from a legal position, they're still doing everything the city is asking them to do. So this right now is just a little bit more of a sort of an exercise for justice. But the fact is that everything that they've been asked to do, they're doing at this point. So, I mean, I'm not really undersure the aggression or the anger. I am a neighbor. I've talked to neighbors, but I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to.
When did the barn burn down?
It was probably, I'm going to say,
September?
Toward last year, yeah.
September,
yeah.
Right?
September 6th.
Yep, September 6th. So for 4 months, they didn't put any permits for anything.
No, the permits were in.
Wrong.
Yeah, I know, but this is where the problem comes in. You're angry and justifiably so, but without the information.
Facts straight.
All the permits were in October and November. So that's what I'm saying, is you're coming with misinformation or incomplete information, and you're accusing my clients of something, and we're trying to work through it with the city. All the permits are in, the children are off the property, these cases are going to work their way through the courts, and this is the other thing, you can't initiate a new case on this because our case is already there. Your motion for injunctive relief would be in response. So it's not even a new case because we've already gotten to the court and asked for clarification from the courts because we can't get it through the magistrate. So I hear what you're saying. We're not making light of the situation. We are working through it. I mean, hence the fact that we're here. But it's just unfortunate at a lower level.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Okay, thank you. I'm confused. I'm confused about the fact that we're calling this an agricultural property, but yet we have multiple children and families on this property. So I'm confused about which code we're going by. We have to go by the most stringent codes here to protect the families that are on the property, that will be on the property. I think we have a double level of codes here. We have an agricultural property, but yet we have homeschooling or schooling with children and family. So there's two different sets. I mean, am I off track here? Or am I?
In fact, Vice Mayor, that's exactly part of the issue, and that's why we have our cases, because the laws are not clear. And there's interpretations because the area is gray, which is why we have the declaratory action, because the homeschool statutes are very different than private school. So they're compliant with the homeschool statutes and are licensed by it, and that's why we've asked the court for that clarification, because they're being held to the standard that doesn't apply to a homeschool co-op. But those are things that we can't do at a city level. They're going to have to be done through the judiciary system of some sort to get that
So
understanding.
homeschool, but yet homeschool applies to, in my old-fashioned thinking, is a family school. But yet you have members that aren't family related. So then how can you call it homeschool?
The way that the
They're outsiders coming in to be tutored, basically. So in essence, it's really not homeschooling, it's a school.
Well, it actually isn't under the statute, and if you look at the declaratory action, it actually has the laws in it that we're citing to. It comes from a different section, which is parent-driven, and in fact, at this point, it's not even necessarily parent-driven as long as it's parent-directed. So that's part of the problem, is the statutes are different, and especially at a time right now in the state and in the country where people are trying to allow the freedom of education and choice. That's where some of the issues on that particular issue is that it's coming from a gray area, and none of us really have the exact answers.
Okay, but again,
If I could really
safety,
quickly,
huh? Yes,
you know,
go ahead.
I want to be careful that we're not trying to litigate the issues that are
okay,
the subject matter of
Okay.
the actual
Yeah.
cases.
Okay, thank you, I'm done.
Commissioner Wasserman, and then I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask our city attorney.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to speak to the city attorney myself. City attorney, has this group been difficult to work with?
I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to interject right here. I appreciate all my colleagues. The record made this evening will be involved in court proceedings one way or the other. So we are pre-litigating this. I'd caution all of you, and Madam City Attorney, you could agree with me or not, comments need to be watched right now one way or the other.
Okay. Terrell, has this been a difficult group to work with in terms of getting them to remedy things and follow through on things?
I can't speak for everyone
Okay.
else.
Okay. Was the my biggest thing is I'm not okay with rogue agents and rogue people in our city, right? I'm very respectful of local government, state government, federal government, and how things are supposed to be run. Following ordinances, following through on things, staying in between the lines, and we're talking about shoes. Sorry. I'm trying to process if that is the case here, right? If we have a group of people, residents, Coconut Creek, who are not following code and not following through on our ordinances purposely, just trying to go rogue and do their own thing. I'm not okay with that. I'm going to support this with a yes, but that doesn't mean you're going to file a lawsuit right away. Is that correct?
Correct. Again, they've moved the educational use off the property. They've applied for permits. So long as that goes forward, there is no intention to run out and file this. Again, this was just a contingency if we needed it for the life safety issues. It was a
Absolutely.
concern that staff had. And I just want to be clear, I wasn't trying to say or be coy or cagey when I said earlier in response to your question that I can't speak for everyone else. I simply also, to Commissioner Rydell's point, don't want to create some kind of a record here outside.
There's nobody from code here to talk about this who's been dealing with this case? I would assume, right.
Justin is here, but I
Okay.
think the suggestion that we,
No, I'm just asking. So yeah, I'll be a yes on this.
okay.
So this, actually, I'm not going to ask the city attorney this question. I'm going to ask Ms. Cook. When Commissioner Rydell asked if you would be amenable to mediation, you said yes, but.
Well, I think part of the issue, for one, is you've heard that they're already going through the process of everything that was requested, so they're getting the building permits, the children are off the property. Some of the concerns that I have with the mediation, and it ultimately settles, is we never get the final answers to a couple of those legal issues. The fact of like whether or not the non-residential farm buildings are actually exempt from the Florida Building Code, or whether a homeschool qualifies under the Coconut Creek Code as a school versus what the statutes at the state level are doing. So while I think in the best interest of my client, yes, I think a resolution, and they're working towards that already, some of these things need to be clarified either through the cases or codified and corrected at a legislative level, because they've left us in gray areas that have caused some of the issues why we're here today.
I appreciate that. Commissioner Rydell, I interrupted you.
Sorry, I didn't realize I have a button. If I could just really
Yes.
quickly, I agree with Ms. Cook as to those issues that really could use further clarification by the courts.
So, I mean, this is the lawyer in me. I litigate things every day. I have multiple appeals going on right now that a higher court is going to make a determination of what the law is. Some of those appeals go away because the parties reach an agreement. I can't tell you if these people here want if they want the courts to rule on this, there's no point to mediation. That's that clear. I look at it like this. You got people that have bought a lot of property in Coconut Creek. I'm not looking at the issues, I'm looking at the future. You got people that may be invested in Coconut Creek. If they want to make a future going forward, then mediation makes sense, that everyone can come to an agreement and move forward in a successful capacity. If Ms. Cook is trying to make law, there's no point to it. I'm just telling you, because I have appeals up with the 4th DCA right now, making law. And when you make law, you're bound by that law, and sometimes you get screwed with that law. So my clients may get screwed with the decision that a higher court's going to make. And I'll tell you this right now, if the goal is to make law, it ain't going to end in Broward County courts. It's going to go to the 4th, it may end up at the Supremes, and we're talking about law that may take 2 to 3 years to litigate. I'm trying to suggest something to the benefit of everybody, not looking at life and safety and issues, and that is huge consideration, but saying, hey, can we all get together and figure out a way forward? So my suggestion of pre-suit mediation, I do disagree with Ms. Cook, because I think a lawsuit that we may file is different than your deck action, but we can have a disagreement of the minds here. That being said, I'm not the city attorney, but I do believe, regardless of all the issues, that if people could be successful in having a conversation with a neutral party saying, yeah, maybe these issues aren't, maybe these people that hired their lawyer don't want to pay $100,000 for this lady to take something to the Supreme Court. Maybe they want to say, maybe we could be in a place that we work something out and we all move forward together. That opportunity, I believe, as a commission, we need to order to try to move it forward. Ms. Cook may say no, and if she says, no, I'm not interested, then it makes the decision easy. If she's trying to make law and redefine Florida statutes, so it's more power to her. That's the glory of the courts. But if she's saying, hey, on behalf of my clients, you know, I think if she talked to her client for a minute, maybe she gets that answer. Maybe let's all try to move forward in a successful capacity because we're here to stay one way or the other. I just think that it moves the ball forward in a capacity. So,
well, if I may, just on that, is because the underlying issues are getting resolved. So the things that came in through code, all the building permits are in, the children are off, the life safety. So like, it's.
I get you. With all due respect, I don't want to cut you off. I'm going to ask you a really simple question.
Okay.
Do your clients want to mediate, yes or no?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, we'll always be open to mediation.
So then I'm going to make a motion that prior to the city filing an additional lawsuit, that there's a pre-suit mediation requirement. And I'll say, Terrell, you can give me a time frame, but I believe that there should be a mediation to try to move a lot of these global issues, because just so my colleagues know, this lawsuit doesn't necessarily have to be pre-suit mediation. There's a lot of other stuff here. And if there's an agreement on a lot of these other issues, while they may be in the gray, we may be in the gray, it allows us all to move forward with a lot less cost with something that we can preserve health, safety, welfare, and be partners moving forward. I think mediation solves that. I'm a big believer in it. So I'm going to make that motion to require mediation prior to filing a lawsuit.
I would say that too, as long as it's a hand-in-hand, we do mitigation. If mitigation fails, we automatically go into it. What say you?
Yeah, I think that's clear. I think my motion's clear. Just saying mediate before we file, before we hire a law firm to file. So that's my motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have two other signed up to speak.
And I apologize, Mayor. I was going to wait until the end of public comment. So for the purpose of Robert's rules, I'll withdraw the motion at this time. I'll wait till the end of public comment. And Mayor, I'd ask you to call on me so I can make that motion at the end of public comment.
Commissioner Rydell.
No, I said I'm going to withdraw the motion pending the end of public speaking, and I'd ask you to call on me at the end of public comment.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am.
City Clerk Kavanaugh, please.
Next speaker signed up to speak is Michelle Cody.
Do you mind if Andrew Cody goes first? Is that?
Not at all.
Thank you. Andrew Cody, 4551 Northwest 39th Avenue, Coconut Creek. I want to start off by saying that I don't think that we're in a disagreement with the city, and I don't even think that we're in a dispute with the city. There's no dispute that we have on whether or not code needs to be followed. There's no dispute that we have on whether or not permits need to be issued outside of the laws that are set up by the state, which says that bona fide agricultural fences are exempt from building code. So I did a lot of research, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert. I'm certainly not. It's very new to me. But when I read up on the laws, it said that the assessor's office only meets once a year, and that if you're conducting bona fide ag in good faith, which is you are truly doing what you're saying that you're going to do, that the state of Florida acknowledges that good faith bona fide agricultural does not require fences. The property that we bought to the point of Brody had buildings that were over 40 and 50 years old that had wood that was like tinder. Now, I don't know whether it was a lightning strike, and I don't know whether it was, I certainly don't know if it's electrical. I know that I didn't do any work in that building, in the feed structure and the a couple of stables that burned up. It's an act of God, not my issue, not my cause. But in the spirit of respect to the city and the processes, I've gone ahead and gotten permits. I've hired engineers, and I've gotten permits on every issue that's there. I do believe that within the next couple of weeks that we're going to be determined to be bona fide ag, because we are. And I think it'd be very hard to dispute that when you're running a farm and you're leasing out paddocks, and you're leasing out and you're providing stalls, and you're providing lessons, and you've got babies new babies getting born, that it's hard to dispute that that's ag. I've still gone ahead and complied. We're not looking at a rogue group. We're looking at somebody that's trying to accomplish things, and we can't wait until the assessor's office. That's why it's considered good faith. We acted in good faith. The city's building enforcement, code enforcement, did not act in good faith. Regardless of that, I'm still not against the code enforcement. I'm happy to work with code enforcement. We're not going to ever end up in a lawsuit. And the reason that we're not going to end up in a lawsuit is that I'm not against the city. I'm trying to build something, and Michelle and I are trying to build something, and our community is trying to build something for the community. Our neighbors are not scared of us. As a matter of fact, the neighbor that Brody spoke with, we donated over $10,000 to build 3 new stalls for them. Well, I know that when you mentioned it, neither here nor there. I'm not opposed to you. I have no argument with you guys. I have no argument with the city. I very much appreciate the city, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
City Clerk Kavanaugh.
Next speaker to sign up to speak is Michelle Cody.
And if there is any questions, but if there is any questions, I'm happy to answer those questions today or in the future. And again, I thank you guys for all allowing me to be here.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'll start with I'm a lousy public speaker, so I apologize if I stumble over myself.
Your name and address.
My name is Michelle Patton, and my address is 4551 Northwest 39th Avenue. So the reason that we started the homeschool co-op is because my son, 7 years old almost, didn't get into Pinecrest or Christchurch that we applied for him. And I didn't want him to go anywhere else because I'm terrified of him getting shot up in a school shooting. So I decided that I was going to homeschool my son and my daughter. And so it is a true attack on my civil rights, in my opinion, that we are not listening to the fact that I chose to protect my children by creating a homeschool. That's all I did. And I got together with all the parents I knew to create a social network for my children. That's all I did. And I wanted to create something where they could be outdoors like 70% of the time, which is what we do. We play with the animals, we collect eggs, we milk cows, we pick up manure, and we enjoy the outdoors. So from where I come from, I'm doing right by my children. To respond to the fact that we have had an injury on our property, riding horses comes with inherent risk. It always does. No matter who you are, you might fall off a horse. Let's face the reality. So we have a horse riding program, and that's to teach animal safety. I get up and I teach my children, as well as all the kids of my friends, that animal safety is of the utmost importance. We go out once a month through our parent-led activities, and I teach them that a cow might headbutt you. A water buffalo might poke you with their horns. It is something that we take very seriously amongst our children, amongst our families, and amongst our animals. I will be the first to get completely upset if our animals don't have water. So to think that we are at somewhere where we're putting our children, my own blood, my own soul, in any sort of life safety is just a huge insult to me, because I would never put my children in any sort of life safety situation. And that's from the bottom of my heart, I say that. So to think that we're doing something that would put any of those kids in jeopardy is just a true insult to who we are as human beings. Everyone in our community has supported what we're doing. Even the mayor has come out to see what a beautiful place we're creating. We have done nothing but improve our space. We have done nothing but that building that burnt down was almost 50 years old. So we have done nothing but improve our space for our own safety, for our own kids' safety, and for the safety of the community. Thank you.
Are there any names on the list, City Clerk Kavanaugh?
No, Mayor.
Does anyone have questions for me?
Is there anyone else that here that wishes to speak on this item? Okay. Are there questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Wasserman.
I just wanted to ask Michelle. You were talking about educating, and this is just from knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have professional training in that field, or is it just learned from just being working and just working on a farm and learning through just doing and through experience, or did you have professional experience to teach those students how to do those things?
Yes.
That's all I ask.
Mm-hmm. I graduated from UC Davis with a degree in English and communication. And as far as it goes, the Governor DeSantis qualifies that as grounds to teach your children and tutor other children.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment, a statement. I totally can understand where you're coming from. We're not implying that you would put your children in danger. We suffered a loss of our home in a fire in New York. My 2 grandchildren, my daughter, my husband, my son-in-law were in the house 3 a.m. Accidents happen. And we had every precaution in place. But what we're trying to do is to make sure that we are implementing the safest area for our residents.
And we respect that.
And truly, accidents happen. We have no control over our destiny at times. So I just want you to know that we're not implying that you would mistreat or you would be neglectful. It's just that we have to make sure the safest precautions are taken. That's all I wanted to say.
Understood, and we are definitely following that.
All right, Commissioner Rydell, you had a motion. Commissioner Rydell?
Does anyone else have any comments before I make a motion? I have a motion. I'm going to make a motion to amend the item to require mediation prior to any lawsuit.
I'll second it.
City Clerk Kavanaugh, would you like to call the roll on the amended motion?
Commissioner Rydell.
Yes.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. So, on the main motion, call the roll.
Commissioner Rydell.
Yes.
Commissioner
As,
Wasserman.
as amended.
Yes.
Commissioner Brody.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Raley.
Yes.
Mayor Welch.
Yes. All right, well, thank you. All right, we'll now have the city manager's report.
Good evening, and wow, what a spectacular butterfly festival. I just want to shout out to the staff for all the work that they did and for all of you for attending and supporting their efforts. It was great. Some good news. We have 13 proposals for the design services for the fire station, and right now procurement is looking at them. We expect a short list, and once we shortlist, we will have presentations from the shortlisted proposals. So we expect to get a design firm underway. And even in better news, Bernadette Hughes actually hosted a meeting with the superintendent of the school board related to the traffic circulations at Lions Creek Middle School. We believe we have reached an agreement, and we expect that the school board will have this item on their agenda in March. And it will involve the school board doing the modifications to flip the student drop-off to the back of the school and doing the necessary on-site amendments. The city agreed informally to do the driveway modifications along the circle that are necessary to accommodate it. Those would be the amendments in the city right away.
And you'll let us know the date.
So I will let you know the specific date, but I would appreciate your support there. As in the traditional approach of the school board, they want to know what we've given them lately. It's a very interesting situation, because in my opinion, the school board is responsible for this. We've been asking them to do this for 4 years. But in order to get this on the agenda, the superintendent and his staff wanted a summary of what the city does for the school board.
Who sponsored the item?
Nora Rupert.
I can't believe it.
So actually, Nora Rupert did not sponsor the item. The superintendent is putting this on as a staff-led initiative. The estimated cost is about $1.4 million, and our expectation is that they will complete the construction over this summer. So,
Oh my gosh,
fingers crossed, and I will let you know of the date of the meeting.
that's ridiculous.
Nothing else to add.
City Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few items this evening. In the Henry Hage versus City of Coconut Creek and Gray Star matter, the court did deny the petitioner's motion for written opinion. This is the 4th District Court of Appeals, which had already denied the petition. So at this point in time, we believe that that case is finally over. And again, they denied their appeal, meaning that our decision stands. Additionally, I know we were scheduled to have our Chapter 164 meeting with the county on Monday morning. Unfortunately, both due to a conflict of our outside attorney beyond his control, as well as the fact that the county, I don't think, had noticed the meeting as required, it looks like that meeting is going to be rescheduled for Wednesday, March 12th between 3 to 5 p.m. So we do already have it rescheduled, but it's not going to happen Monday. Sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure you were up to date. Assistant City Attorney Harvey followed up with the investigator, and we do expect a report on that early next week. In case any of you have any questions, please let me know. And I do just want to point out, if I could, there were some things said earlier about my Deputy City Attorney, Kathy Mahaffey, and I just want to be abundantly clear that she's just doing her job. and I appreciate her. It just came out earlier in the matter right before this. I don't think it was necessarily anything trying to disparage her. I just want to be clear that Kathy's doing her job, and she does a good job, and I appreciate her.
Hear, hear.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rydell.
Kudos to all of city staff on Butterfly Festival. I think that goes without saying. I always love when we have an artist that performs that actually believes he's the artist that he's performing for. We had a gentleman that actually thought he was Kenny Chesney, which was a cut-off shirt, cowboy hat, the whole 9 yards. Residents extraordinarily happy. I give kudos, and I think Leo, Parks and Rec, all of our city staff, everyone that works on it, we do better and better and better every year. I think the only complaint that I harbored from a couple residents was lines at the rides, but I think that's a consistent thing every year. I'll bring up just as a comment, I say this every year, I've never gotten traction on it. I would love to figure out a way to prioritize Coconut Creek residents over other people. So I know we've talked about it. I know we've thought about it. I don't know if there's a great way to do it. I know, Sandy, we've talked about it for years of trying to figure out a way, and I know there's not a great way, but I would love a way to purely benefit our residents in some capacity. I'm going to ask our city's manager, this is one of those things I'm going to say because I know the person who's going to do it is in the back of the room. In terms of some of the community forums we've had lately, just regrettably, complaints come up every so often. I would love our city staff to push out on social media platforms, our CRM information, how you can file complaints. I think a robust public outreach. Oh, there's Yvonne. So I'm going to go back. So I'm going to direct something to city staff, and I think the person that is the right person to say it may be in the back of the room. I starting the comment over, Yvonne, because you just walked back in the room. I think it's really important, due to some of the community events that we've had lately, that our CRM data, meaning how a resident can file a complaint, I would love to see that pushed out in a robust campaign, for lack of a better term, to let people know how to do that. Obviously, we have a very robust public record, and public outreach system on our social media. I think that should be a highlight, because I think that's a direct conduit to filing a complaint with whatever that complaint is. I think the other thing I have a couple questions for city staff, because I was a little confused. The March 13th meeting, Madam Rose, that is not a post-election meeting, correct? So I know when the supervisor changed their and Mr. Kavanaugh, feel free to chime in, whoever's going to do it. So I just need some clarity on this, because I saw the pre-agenda for the March meeting. Traditionally, when we have an election, there's always the next meeting is the election meeting, but I know when they change the qualifications and the certifications, they have like a 72-hour window, which takes arguably the 13th meeting out of it. So just to be clear, the 13th meeting has nothing to do with election results. Is that a fair statement?
You are correct, Commissioner. The window of time is actually 10 days now.
Okay. So it's fair to say that the election meeting, reorganization meeting will be the second meeting in March.
Correct. I believe that is March 27th.
But the March 14th meeting is post-election, just not with election results certified.
The March 13th meeting is correct.
13th, okay. I want to commend our city clerk. I think there was some interesting issues that were raised by residents in terms of how they were viewing the election and how we publicized it with, is it citywide, is it B, C, and E, and maybe some confusion that some residents have how they vote. Mr. Kavanaugh, I appreciate you cleaning up some of the language and pushing it out in an effective way about citywide voting and things of those issues. So I think it's a testament to you and your department really taking the effort to educate all of our residents on city elections. And I think you've gone above and beyond, more so you and your staff, obviously in conjunction with other city departments, but I know that's primarily you, in terms of expanding and educating our residents that there is an election. So I commend you on that. There was one last thing I wanted to talk about. One of our residents brought up some interesting questions in terms of our recycling drop-off. I think it's great. I think as we go into the next year, we can maybe reevaluate some of those parameters, maybe adding locations and things like that. I know Sheila's working on it, just to promote recycling in more of a capacity. On the final thing, I'm just going to talk about my utter disappointment in Broward County. I'm not surprised by any of it. It's just extraordinarily disappointing. And I think I don't think anyone's going to like what I'm going to say right now, but I think we need to reevaluate. So I want to just share this with everybody. The Solid Waste Authority met. We hadn't had a meeting. So the Solid Waste Authority met days before the county commission meeting, the Friday before. I just want to share with you what happened because it's a buyout, and the Solid Waste Authority, you heard Mayor Furr talk about it as a badge of honor, that, oh, the Solid Waste Authority doesn't want to interject in this, and, you know, some member made a motion and it died. It's a true statement. I made a motion. That was after Waste Management committed to $2.4 million in education for the Solid Waste Authority. So they essentially said, we're going to fund you. And the members of the Solid Waste Authority saw the inevitable nature of what the mayor was disgustingly advocating for and kind of jaded the board. I know Sheila's not going to like what I'm about to say, but we need to reevaluate our participation in that board. And I'm not suggesting at this point opting out, but the reality is if this isn't going to be something that we're going to move forward successfully in a proactive way, what are we doing? So, and other cities have, and I say it's not a sunshine violation, but other cities, other members were shocked by it. And the truth is, obviously we'll see what the master plan is, but we came to the table with money. We came to the table with ideas. We came to the table of what we need to do moving forward. And if this isn't going to be a group effort where other people are going to say the NIMBYism of not in my backyard, or we want this, or where there's no incineration, there's no this, there's no that, it's extraordinarily frustrating. And I know Mayor Welsh, I know our previous commissioner, Becky Tooley, have spent hours and hours and hours. I'm spending about probably 30, 40 hours a month, 30, 40 hours a month on solid waste and the white papers, reviewing the white papers with staff. And it's extraordinarily disappointing right now where things are heading. The only thing that's a positive to me is who's chairing it. And what was disgusting to me is that former Mayor Ross of Cooper City decided to get up and speak of a landfill expansion. So there seems to be a sentiment of that, of people on the Solid Waste Authority towing a line that, to me, doesn't align with the goals of Coconut Creek. So that is going to be something I will bring up in further meetings. I'll keep you all apprised of it. We have 2 more workshops in March, another one in April. I'm hoping it trends the right way. I will keep you all updated, but I am not holding back on the fact there may be a day that I come and may not support it. And I think that's the same with, you know, I think I'm curious to hear from Commissioner Brody. I think the League of Cities has disappointed our city. I think these entities that we're involved in, that we pay money to, significant money to be involved in with the point of global awareness and regional participation, are just disappointing. And there's other cities that opt out of all of it. And I kind of get it at this point. I'm not asking, I'm not calling for a vote, but we want to be with other cities that are like-minded. And if that's not happening, then those aren't the tables we want to sit at. I have nothing further.
Commissioner Wasserman.
Yeah, I'll talk about the landfill. That's one of my, seeing how he was just, and then I'll transition to my other things. Yeah, I totally agree with how the commissioner ended here. Nothing good, you know, when you have a group of people, you know, nothing, you have to have product. You know, when a group of cities come together, what's the final product? What are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to have a gala where people eat food and stuff? No, okay? That's what I'm seeing with the League of Cities. I don't see them doing anything for its members. I see opportunities to go eat and do this and do that. Our city can't even go to the meetings because they're on the second and fourth, or they're on the second or fourth Thursday of the month, which is when we're here together, right? So I'm okay with that. Whenever we cross that bridge, it's doing nothing for us. We should count on our neighbors to help us, but I'm really ashamed of Margate. They didn't even show up to any of the meetings, and I see comments online from Margate people, and they weren't even at the meeting.
Actually, I apologize.
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
No, I want to just tell you this. Okay. Margate voted at the Solid Waste Authority to expand the landfill. I just want to tell you that.
Well, then that's why they weren't there.
I apologize for interrupting, but
No.
but their member voted.
Who's their member?
Vocally.
Caggiano's their member?
Vocally to expand all assets.
Okay. Thank you. No, it's okay. Apology accepted. But But yeah, so nothing's good is coming from these regional bodies, and I share that sentiment with Commissioner Rydell. I'm a little confused about what happened earlier in the meeting between the mayor and the city manager. I really wasn't abreast of what was going on. I think the people in the chambers didn't know what was going on. I certainly didn't. With the whole code and this and that, I don't even know what's happening.
Well,
So I'd like a little education as to what was going on, so I can get some clarity.
Absolutely. I think you had left before the Q&A.
Oh, from last night.
From last night at the meeting.
Yes, I was not there at the Q&A. I left early.
And it was, there were some very powerful statements that were made that I was not going to address as to validity or not, but I did certainly see that they were generating a great deal of energy and interest among all of us that were up there on the panel, and it didn't put us in a good light. So I felt, as the mayor, and that I'm the one that actually brought to head with my incident on that street with that particular home, that it was important that I get a report with all the facts, with all the calls, with all the incidents, and with all of the results. And then also to ask the city attorney, because if there are multiple instances of more than 4 unrelated persons living in rental homes there in that area, which was indicated, that the city attorney should give guides on what person should look for if they think they have someone rental home in their neighborhood, and how to identify it, steps to follow. And because I wasn't sure, based on the climate when we left there last night, of how many people would be here tonight expecting some answers.
Okay.
So I didn't mean to appear rude, not to ask for conversation back and forth from the commission, but it was a fact-finding report on what we had done based on what we had received.
Okay.
So it wasn't really to overstep, but just to fact find.
Okay. No, I was just confused. I didn't know what was
No,
happening.
I agree, and I didn't mention it before. Like I said, I didn't know who would be here, but I just knew that the facts needed to be supplied and in a public forum.
Right. 'Cause it was District A, I was assuming. I just didn't know what was going
Absolutely.
on. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also, Butterfly Fest was awesome. I think in terms of what the committee, I know last year we had a conversation about like Coconut Creek residents. Do we charge? Do we do this? What do we do? What about a Coconut Creek Fast Pass, right? You go to a lot of these places, and there's 2 lines to a lot of these to a lot of the rides, and if maybe there was a tent maybe set up that gave out a specific wristband. They show their license or something. They get the wristband, and they can maybe move along. I come up with good ideas sometimes.
Why not?
Oh my gosh! All right, okay.
Like you pre-register.
No, I'm not, John. You're the king of patting oneself. So please don't talk about me patting myself. Thank you so much. Questionable. But yeah, I think that's a. I think maybe something. Maybe I don't know about maybe a pre-register. I don't know. You guys can figure it out. But maybe something to work on and talk about and create 2 lines. Because yes, I did talk to some of the Parks and Rec staff who was working the lines, and they were frustrated. All right, sorry, people. Okay. So they were a little frustrated. Some of the workers, our Parks and Rec staff, whatever. And then also, yes, Joe. Attention to you. I think last year around this time when we started talking about November and March election and mayor and I just got to say, you have risen to the occasion for this election. And as somebody who's not running in it, right, I think it's important to hear from me and maybe Brody as well. But The information out there is everywhere. People know about this election. Usually we count on the candidates to get the information out, but you have been certainly representing the city well. Your department's been representing the city well and ensuring that our residents are aware of this election. If they are not aware of this election, they're living under a rock. Okay, and I'd be honest. There are signs, it's online, the candidates are doing an incredible job, you know, and I really got to give it to you. You are walking the walk after you talked the talk, and you know, I have great respect for you. I will leave it for that for tonight. And to the guy who always says he's, everybody loves that. I love this guy. I love this guy right here. Love this guy. Love him.
You gotta love yourself before you love other people. You know, I wasn't gonna talk about it because it was kind of painful, but since Commissioner Rydell brought it up, actually Peter Gay got a little earful because I didn't know who to talk to, and she was the first one that had a soft shoulder for me to cry on. I came back from a luncheon with the League of Cities, and I was thoroughly disappointed of what the hell they represent. We pay them money to represent us as a city, to have our best interests in mind, to understand the sensitivities to items that we feel that are important. Now, they were doing this big breakup with the solid waste, which was okay. With things, there's breakups in this world. I only asked, delay it till after the vote, because we know how the county works. The county's going to use that without any explanation to say the League of Cities is no longer behind the solid waste. So all I asked simply from this meeting, when she brought it up, the president of the League of Cities, I said, delay it till after the vote with the county. And you would have thought that I killed cats on that table that day. She freaked out. And when all of a sudden other people at that table started going, yeah, why can't you wait? It's only 2 weeks. Like it's going to inevitable is going to be the inevitable, but don't give them more gasoline to throw on this fire. Obviously, Caggiano said, I'll second that. So there's our buddy over there helping us again. But I walked away. She called me out in the hallway and scolded me like a child, which you guys know me doesn't go very well. So it became I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm only asking you to delay it so that there's no ammunition. And she didn't understand the importance of what that meant. She kept telling me I didn't understand. I ran businesses. I understand about timelines and breakups and understand. She had to put zero effort from that point forward until that letter was done 2 weeks later, and there's no harm, no foul. She couldn't do that. She couldn't understand the sensitivity of the waste management issue in our city. And it was disheartening, because then she pulled Todd Drewski out and scolded him. And I'm thinking, this is the people that are supposed to be representing us for 100, what do they tell us, 105 years or whatever the big number they tell us? They don't care. They had their own interest in there. They aligned, and they sat right in front of me with Greg, and he agreed with them doing this. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to tell you something to bolster kind of your anger, Commissioner Brody. Honestly. So the league had been administering the Solid Waste Authority without a contract since September. They made a cognizant decision to terminate that prior to the vote, which was codified on the Friday agenda prior to the meeting, which they'd been operating for almost 4 months without a contract, which the time of that was unique. That's all I want to tell you.
This is why I'm saying the League of Cities don't represent the need of a city. They represent a culture of the area. And they didn't feel that we were on the winning side. They weren't going to back us. But they should have just stayed out of it, if that's the case. They should have said, okay, we understand the sensitivity. The breakup is the breakup. We'll do it afterwards. But it was so important to them because Greg was sitting right there with them. I understood at that moment why. They were never behind what was going on. And so Peter Gay, you saw my face. Was I not happy? I was devastated because I've never had this kind of, I was standing up for my city. And I felt like I was a scolded child. And I go, that's not right. That's not right that we pay them money and they turn around and treat the commissioner like that in public. It wasn't like we went outside. She stopped me in the hallway so everybody could hear that. And I was cool and calm and collected. Trust me, it was a unique situation for me where I said, hey, I'm only asking you to delay it. I kept a smile on my face because everybody's looking at us. And they still did not give two craps about what was good for this city. So I don't know why we pay them, and I don't know why we participate. If we're going to go there and have drinks, we can do that at any event. I mean, I don't get it. So I don't know if we want to continue our adventure with this. It's something we would definitely got to cross a road at some point to see if this is something that we want to continue to be part of and waste taxpayer money on. Other than that, Butterfly Festival is awesome. Love my city. God bless.
Vice Mayor Raley.
The problem is, nobody wants it in their backyard. That's the bottom line. We have it already. So they figure, why not keep it there and just keep it going? This way it saves us. And that was the bottom line. We walked into that meeting. Their decisions were already predetermined. We know that. And it was a slap in the face to everyone who sits on a committee or an advisory board. I happen to be seated on the Broward Planning Council. He, might as well say it, Senator Geller manipulated those findings from the Broward Planning Council on a technicality, total disregard, and made it a point of saying, well, they're just advisory boards. We don't have to listen to them. So why? Why are the people sitting on committees and advisory boards wasting their time and efforts to do what's best for Broward County when it's being totally ignored and disregarded? That was a total slap in the face for the second time in a month. And Chief of Staff of that council does an amazing job. That whole staff does, and total disregarded their recommendations. That was already predetermined before we walked into that meeting. And that was disgusting. That really was, with total disregard for our residents because nobody else wants it in their backyard. And that's the bottom line. So anyway, that's all I have to say on that subject. We've been fighting this for years, and I think we're going to continue to fight. We're not giving up. Let our residents know that. This isn't the end of it. We will continue to fight. But also, Butterfly Festival, best yet. Great, great event. Thank you, staff. Amazing, wonderful. Teen Political Forum for ATC, amazing. Enjoyed every single moment. It's been very busy. We've been everywhere, loving every minute of it. Thank you. And good night. Have a great weekend.
I'm exhausted. So I do want to follow up. Just a minute, hold that thought. I listened to you.
I know.
Teen Political Forum, I'm telling you, the two chiefs really hit it out of the ballpark. I think everybody wants to be a fireman or a policeman or a career in law enforcement or fire, but city clerk's office, I've been to some mock commission meetings that I thought were very robust, but none can rise to the level of what you and your staff pulled off. It was amazing. Got out of control once in a while, but the mayor really took hold. I don't know who this person is. He's probably going to be the next president of the United States. But anyway, it was awesome. And I know we've been talking trash, but I want to talk recycle. And I think the results from the Butterfly Festival of the recycle that Public Works did, I mean, it's incredible. And they did with the composting and recycling, all that. I mean, it's just, it shows what can be done if you really work together and do it. I hear what you're saying about the SWA. My gut was wrenching when I saw the former chair, co-chair, rise and speak for waste management expansion, seated next to the head of the Broward League of Cities. So we can kind of see where this is all going in tandem with waste management. So I'm going to leave it on that. The forum last night was really, it was very good. It was a robust conversation with the residents in your district. Commissioner Wasserman, the one thing that I am going to suggest and I would definitely support when we get to our strategic planning session, is to hire an additional code officer strictly for everything south of Coconut Creek Parkway, and have they don't have HOAs, so but I told them, be careful what you wish for, because then it's a slippery slope, but they really, anyway, I'll leave it on that part. I did get a letter from our favorite, the county, talking about they have a new landlord registration and inspection program for residential renter properties. Now, their database is only inclusive of unincorporated areas, but why not here? So I just asked Sheila, and she said that we're looking into doing the same thing for right here. So the information is very current and valid, given that we're having these conversations probably around the city of multiple people living in the rental properties that are out of our ordinance. But I'm just glad tonight's over. But it's been a great week. We've had some good conversations with everyone. So I'm just going to end on that. And Commissioner Brody.
Really important, March 14th, 6 p.m., FIL, Foundation for Independent Living, is going to have a basketball game against the police, and they're going to smoke those police. So everybody come out, they cheer on our FIL brothers over there, and watch the police walk out of there with the little pigtails between their legs.
Oh, and water cleanup.
I'm on the FIL team, by the way.
Water cleanup Saturday, Donaldson Park and Community Center, 9 to 1. Be there, be square.
And don't forget to get out March 11th and vote.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.